productivity boost, achieve your year-end goals with Paperpal. We're delighted to have you join us, particularly during this time, which is often reflective, but also surprisingly productive. I think for many of us in academia, this holiday season brings the much needed pause from teaching schedules, meetings, deadlines. But I believe it also comes with a familiar challenge: unfinished drafts, looming submissions, revisions waiting to be addressed. And I believe that innate desire to start the new year with a clean slate. So today is just really going to be about using this window intentionally, not just to write more, but to write better with support of Paperpal as part of your academic flow. Before we dive in, let me quickly introduce us. My name is Riddhi, and I'll be your moderator today. I began my career as a researcher and now work in the product team at Paperpal, focusing on making this tool intuitive, ethical, and genuinely useful. I'm joined by my colleague Shardul, who is part of the core development team at Paperpal. He has been closely involved in building and refining Paperpal ground up, and will be walking you through a demo showing how it supports drafting, revision, and manuscript readiness. Before we move into the demo, just a few housekeeping items. And I recommend switching to audio for optimal audio.
Riddhi, I believe there is a certain amount of lag from your end. So do you want to try with maybe the video off to conserve some bandwidth? And
Sorry, am I audible?
yeah, your voice is breaking a little bit, possibly connectivity issues.
Okay.
There are some people who are mentioning that as well. So maybe you can just switch off your video and then maybe try again with a better bandwidth. Yeah.
Okay.
Don't worry, folks. The connection is a little jittery. I think it's practically nighttime in India. I think the internet might also have
Okay. I'm
bad by
just
the day.
all right. I'm just gonna try with video off. I hope this is better.
Yes, but your screen is not being shared. So if you could just start the screen share once again. Yes, now we are back. Now we are back.
Okay. I apologize again. All right. So to as I discussed, this is going to be a practical demonstration, and we are very pleased to share that everyone attending this workshop will receive free Paperpal Prime access during the session, so that you can follow along and try features hands-on as we go. You should now see the Prime activation details on your screen. We encourage you to activate it now so you can work alongside Shardul during the demo. Whether that's just testing suggestions on a chapter that you're writing or a draft, or any revisions you're tackling, I believe it would be really, really helpful. So yeah, just checking in if this is visible. Shardul, if you can just...
Yes, the screen is visible.
Okay, awesome. So yeah, just apologies again. So yeah, I just wanted to very quickly go through what you can expect to walk away with today. A clean understanding of how to get the best out of Paperpal, very practical, hands-on ways to transform your thoughts, notes, references into clear academic writing. Guidance on polishing drafts and manuscripts for language and readiness, and writing routine that helps you confidently kick off your 2026 writing goals. So with that, I will hand over to Shardul to take us through Paperpal in action.
All right. Thank you, Riddhi. Thank you very much. And let us dive right in. So I'm just going to take a moment to share my screen. And I am sharing my screen right now. I'm assuming that everybody is able to see my screen, which is the AirMeet screen. A show of hands, thumbs up, everyone. Awesome, awesome. I can see thumbs up. Thank you so much. All right. So that being said, let us dive right in. So I'm assuming that most of you have used Paperpal in some capacity, but for those who are new to Paperpal, so a very quick, possible, very short summary of what Paperpal is and what it can do. So I would like to think of Paperpal not as a tool that I would go to for any one use case. I look at it like a collection or an ecosystem of solutions and features that helps me at different stages of my writing or my reading or my research journey. So be that language correction, be that AI assisted content generation, finding out, let's say, research papers, getting academic reference backed answers, chatting with PDF, plagiarism check, rewriting. All of these use cases are what I look at and what Paperpal can do for you. And in today's session, I'll be capturing, let's say, a small but very important slice of it. Now, as Riddhi mentioned in her slide deck, that it's holiday seasons and we are all pressed for time, primarily because we want to wind up our stuff early. We want to go on that vacation, take that flight, get things done as fast as we can. And which is why I'm going to focus primarily on how you can get things done better and faster with Paperpal. And in the chat, I believe it was Benazir, if I remember the name correctly, who had mentioned something around the lines of, I want to get that draft ready by the first week of Jan. So while I'm not able to promise whether or not you'll be able to get it ready by Jan, Benazir, but let me tell you how you can make an attempt, an earnest attempt with Paperpal. So what do you get out of this session, in this particular session from me? One, you can get 5 ways how to get the best out of Paperpal. And what do I mean by that? For example, you have your notes, your reference files. How can you brainstorm using that? How can you get, let's say, good outlines, good content generated? How can you get the good first draft of your manuscript? If you are into reading, you have reference papers, you want to get done with your reading of all of those research papers before the holidays set in. How can you do that faster? How can you get a literature matrix ready such that once you join back in Jan, you can use that literature matrix and then get started with writing of your paper? If you're somebody who wants to give an important presentation that's due before the holiday season, how do you get that done? How do you generate slide deck content? How do you get critical feedback on the go such that you're not waiting until the end and then getting a long list of feedbacks? How do you use images, handwritten notes in addition to just PDF files and more? And lastly, towards the end of second half of the seminar, you will learn how do you get a comprehensive health check of your paper, of your documents, especially if you have already done with the writing bit and you want to get some bits of the checks, for example, your language and grammar correction, your plagiarism, your critical review. How do you get all of that with Paperpal in this session? So let us begin afresh. So for example, now if I'm a user, I'm fresh to Paperpal. Let's say after I log in, this is where I will land in. I have my revamped homepage. I can either get started by asking a question right over here, or I can start a new web document, or I can import certain documents. So let me cover each of these flows in detail as I move towards this particular seminar. So if I am someone new to Paperpal, I can simply open up a web document. Now I assume that I'm a student. I want to get some writing done. I want to at least get one draft of my introduction section ready before I go on holidays, before I start my journey and start chilling my Christmas and New Year vacations. if I'm pressed for time, like for example, Ben Nazir mentioned that they might be pressed for time. Now, how do I get started with Paperpal? Now I'm assuming that, okay, I have done my reading. I have my notes, which could be my PDF files, my Excel sheets, my handwritten lab notes, even images, screenshots of all of my lab notes. I have all of that with me. And the feature that's going to help me the most, let's say, in actually using all of this effectively, from which I can gather insights, generate content, ask more questions, is your write feature. So you open up your Paperpal, doesn't matter if you're on the web or on the Word version. So you come to the RHS, which is your right hand side panel. You will find the write option over here. Now you click on write, let's say over here, you will find some preset options that you can use. And then you have a way to attach a lot of multiple different files over here. Now, in the interest of time, I have done some legwork so that I can show you the effectiveness in real time while also showing what I have already generated. Like for example, with Write, the main capability is that you can upload up to 5 files. And for example, these file types can be anything ranging from PDFs, docx, which is your Word files, could be another presentation document, an Excel sheet, a CSV, images, so on and so forth. So for example, if I am a researcher, I have collected a bunch of references and I intend to use all of these references, read all of these references, and then get started with the outline for my introduction section before I go on leave. Now, how do I do that? It's very simple. I go ahead and upload all of these files. Now, if you have already uploaded some files, you will find that you don't need to repeatedly upload the same thing again and again. I can simply click View Recent, and I will file all the files, the documents that I have previously uploaded to Write right over here. From here, I can seamlessly attach whatever notes that I need at any point in my writing inside Paperpal. Now, once that is done, I can start by asking a prompt over here. And just to show you exactly what I mean by that, we also have a history feature that keeps track of everything. For example, this is something that I had used. And as you can see here, I'm just going to extend the side panel over here so that you can resize it as per your viewing comfortability. So for example, I attached 5 documents. I can provide, let's say, a prompt like this. Now, why do I give a detailed prompt? Why can't I simply say write an outline? Well, I can do that. I can attach files and simply say write an outline for an introduction section. But if I am a researcher, I would have some vision of what my end paper might look like. So rather than telling the AI to simply read all the files and generate a best possible outline, it is easier and it is more effective to tell the AI exactly what you want. So which is why I provide this particular prompt over here. You can read these 5 documents, generate a detailed outline for my introduction section on climate change, use the best structure suitable for research paper. If you want the outline to be in a very specific format, you can maybe attach one document that contains the guidelines file for the particular paper and then tell the AI to read that guidelines file and then generate that outline. Now, provided this, and then give an outline as a list, each point on a new line. And what I have with me is basically a detailed outline over here that I can use as a starting point. Now, this outline might not be the best one. It might not even be remotely perfect. It might just be 20%, but that gives me a good enough space to get started, something that I can build upon later while I go. And once I have generated that outline, I can ask a follow-up question, or I can simply insert it into my document. For example, like this over here. Now I insert this into my document. All the context of the files that I attached in Write, it is already there. Now I can use this as a starting point and keep refining it further. So for example, let us say I want the AI to maybe read the files more and tell me what exactly it knows about certain aspects of this outline. For example, let us say I select this content over here, and now the context becomes your selected text. So I have selected a text. Now I'm going to ask the AI, based on the documents, tell me what more can be added about these points. Something like this. Because the AI has the complete context of all the information in that particular files, you are able to chat with it, you are able to converse with it, and you are able to generate section by section over here. So for example, you're writing an introduction section, you have a reference paper that you heavily refer to, and you want to pull in some important data points, some statistics from that paper into your introduction section. You can simply upload that as a reference document inside Write. You can ask very specific question. For example, I did read that, okay, maybe there was some statistics around particular climate change and mental health incidents. Can you pull that data along with a snippet? Your AI will give you that, which you can then incorporate safely into that document to build upon it. So as you can see here, I asked it a question and it tells me, okay, here's file 1, file 2, file 3, and it gives me different information that I can incorporate, I can iterate, I can refine, and I can modify to make this outline even better, even more polished. Now, once that is done, if I have read the paper, I know exactly what information I want to be included from certain points of the paper. Or if I am slightly unclear about, let's say, what exactly this paper has mentioned, I can simply ask something like, what are some statistics I can add to the introduction section? Something like this, something very generic. Now, this is very broad, but your AI will read all through all the papers. It will understand the content of that paper and then pull out certain statistics that would fit within the context of your introduction section or within the outline, within the context of your paper. Now, that's exactly how I could iterate going back and forth with the AI, pulling out certain information that I can add. And here you can see it is generating the content. It is giving me certain important snippets from all these different files that I uploaded. And this is how I safely use AI and use it efficiently while crafting my paper one step at a time. So rather than giving it all my references and asking it to write the entire introduction, I'm much more in control of the story that I want to tell. Now, one of the things we have to be mindful when using AI, and because primarily we have technologies that can write out an entire review article, an entire literature review, it is very important that if your professor, if your peer reviewer asks you, why did you put this particular paper as a reference in the introduction section, you need to have a good response to that. And for that, it is essential that you stay in charge at each and every step. So this is one way I can get started. I can brainstorm with the AI. I can provide it certain documents, ask it to generate an outline, iterate on that outline in multiple way. If I want to tell the AI to focus on a specific thing, I can simply select that content on my document over here, and the selected text becomes the area of focus. Similarly, if let's say I have an entire outline in a document, I want the AI to, let's say, only focus on the entire content in my document over here. I can choose current document. So the AI now has visibility and context of what exactly you are asking, and that flexibility for you to use the AI even without any context, while still preserving the entire content of this particular chat. So that's one way I get started with my notes, with my references, and then begin my introduction section. The other way, if I'm having a lot of reference papers and I want to read and extract certain information pretty fast, let's say in a speedy manner, because I'm crunched for time, I have, let's say, a holidays that is waiting for me. So how do you get that done with Paperpal? Again, very simple. You can upload up to 5 different files, or think about uploading 5 research papers, PDFs, for example. Now, one way, a neat way, let's say, in research to gather and compile information would be to create a table. A literature matrix is a good enough example for that. So, for example, if my intention is to do a quick reading of the paper, for example, or extracting quick insights, which I can then use to build up my paper or build up my outline step by step, I can use a prompt something like, okay, based on these files, create a literature matrix table that contains these columns. Now, the columns can be anything that you want, any particular data point that you want. So let us go ahead and use that and see what happens. So one quick hack is if you click on the question in the right feature, it gets copied automatically. So let's say I use this and I'm going to revise this and say, I want to understand whether any of these papers have actually evaluated human participants, or if certain human participants are there, what kind of review was done. Something like human participants, uh, evaluations done using human cohort. These are very broad points, but if you're writing a paper and you are extracting critical insights, you would very specifically know what exactly are those insights that you want to generate. Now here, I've only asked for 2 columns, so you can go as as much as maybe 6. The 6 is the max that I have tried, but go ahead and try maybe 7, 8. And what you will get is basically a table. As you can see, that table is being generated along with specific information about which file that information comes from. Now, once I have this table, the one easiest thing that I can do, let's say if I am creating a detailed literature matrix in the form of an Excel, is I can simply download it. I click on the download icon. I can click on it and let's say save as a CSV. So it'll prompt me to save as a CSV. Let's say I go ahead and save it over here. I save that, and now I can open it. And let's say if I come back later, when I find more papers, I can feed more papers. I can keep on generating those insights and extracting those content such that my literature matrix gets expanded with time. So this is one way I can improve my reading faster. I can extract insights faster with Paperpal. All right, I don't want to save it right now. Coming back, sorry. All right. So there are two ways I can get started. One, to extract insights faster, get that outline and brainstorming done faster with Paperpal. Second, get my reading done faster by creating a literature matrix that I can keep on adding and maintaining, that becomes my go-to database for everything about all the papers that I might have read during the course of my research or during the course of writing that particular paper. Now, the other thing that I can do with Paperpal, as I mentioned earlier, let's say I have a presentation upcoming on a particular topic, maybe it's a journal club. Now I want Paperpal to also generate some slide deck content while specifically referring to the content or the references that I provided. Very simple. Your Paperpal can do that as well. For example, you come to write, you attach all of your content that is needed. And this is the prompt that I used. For example, I said, okay, you know what? I want to have a presentation about climate change and mental health. And these are the references I provided, let's say, for 3 PDFs, one image. And I said, okay, you know what? This is the structure that I want, because rather than asking the AI to identify what is the best structure, I had some view of what I want to present, and that view, that vision of what you want, what that final end product looks like, that actually helps you a lot, because then you can accordingly ask the AI pointed questions, and your AI will be able to give you very specific answers to those pointed questions. Now, this is the question that I posed, and this is the outline that I received. And I have pasted it here for everyone to see. So for example, if I click insert, the output would be anyway inserted into the document. And here I can see, okay, it has given me slide deck content for slide 2, for slide 3, slide 4. Looks pretty much good. All right. But how do I proceed next? Because this might not be the final ready deck that I want to actually present. I might have to do a lot of work around this to at least get this content polished. That is again where I iteratively interact with the AI, provide it with more context, more references, and then keep asking it, let's say, more questions, and then get the right content that I want to actually add into my slide. Again, what I can do is, for example, it has given me something around this. So I will simply select this and say, what more do the papers say about this and PTSD? They provided. I think I read PTSD somewhere, but I'm not sure. What happens again here is the AI reads your content. Okay, it has the references, all the files that you provided. It will go through it, it will iterate upon it, and then generate that content, that slide deck for you. For example, let's say it tells me, all right, fair enough. It tells me that, okay, these are all the things. Would you want me to integrate this detailed PTSD into your slide deck? I will say, yes, please provide maybe 6 bullet points to add to the slide deck. So now, of course, I will read it, but in the interest of time, I assume that whatever the AI gave me is pertinent information that I want to include in my slide deck content. And then otherwise, you delve deeper into the outputs that the AI has given you, read it carefully, iterate upon it, and very specifically ask for what exactly you want. So here it has given me 6 content. Now it's easier for me to, let's say, introduce that into my slide deck. such that my effort in actually reading, understanding, comprehending, that becomes a little lesser. So now I can get done with my things faster and iteratively improve with Paperpal. So for example, if let's say if I want to include this point over here, I simply insert it and I will say insert. So all of these points are inserted. Now at any point, if I want to shorten the content, or let's say this seems way too long, for a slide deck, you don't want full sentences, you only want, let's say, short bullet points. I can simply say shorten it as create for a slide deck, something like this. Now, if you have a target word count in mind, there are two ways you can go about it. One, you can iteratively use write feature seamlessly while you are writing, reading, and refining. So this is one way to go about it. Else, we have a dedicated rewrite feature. For example, you can use the rewrite to paraphrase to improve your tone, or use the trim feature, which is present inside rewrite, to reduce the word count to whatever you want, approximately 15%, approximately 35 or 50%. So here you can see it has made some reduction. Okay, what else can I do? I can simply, let's say if I'm using the web version of Paperpal, I select the text, I can click on the Paperpal AI command, or I go to rewrite, as I mentioned earlier. I can click on trim and say moderate, for example. Now, one highlight of, let's say, the rewrite features in Paperpal, especially if you're someone who has come to Paperpal with content that has already been written, your rewrite feature will understand all the key nuances, the meaning, the numbers, the important intent, your linked references and citation. So for example, you add a reference using Zotero, EndNote, or even simply using Paperpal, Paperpal's research and cite feature. All of those linkage and everything will be preserved, not only in web, but also in Word. So that's one highlight of the rewrite feature, which makes it a very useful tool to polish iteratively your text. So here you can see I have gotten some reduction in word count, but if I'm not happy, I can try other modes. I can try a rewrite. So multiple ways in which I can improve that content. So for example, another way I can improve my content on the fly, on the go, I have 2 bullet points, but if I'm finding that, okay, the transition between them seems very abrupt, it's not flowing pretty well, I want to improve that flow. Again, I can iteratively, one, I can ask the AI on ways to refine, ways to improve that flow. So for example, I can simply select both of these things. I can click on Paperpal AI if I'm using the web version directly, and I can say, what's a good transition point to include here for better flow? Give examples, bullet points, something like that. It's one way I can improve. Similarly, if I'm writing a paragraph of text, now if I find that, okay, the flow between the paragraph doesn't seem very smooth, if I'm not very sure, how do I improve that flow? This is again one place where you can seamlessly use Paperpal while you are actually writing, be that in your Word document or be that inside the Paperpal's web editor. So it gives me some bullet points, and then I can read it, refine it further based on my requirement, keep on asking follow-up questions until and unless I get something that I like very much. And then that is how I refine my document step by step using an AI tool and using it iteratively. Coming over and moving ahead, I also mentioned at the beginning that with Paperpal, you not only get the ability to, let's say, add your PDF files, add documents, docx, Excel sheets, but you can also use images. So for example, if you are someone who writes quite detailed lab notes, you want to use that information from your lab notes to write a technical report or include some content from those lab notes into your paper. Again, you can go to the write feature, you can attach your images. Just take a snapshot, upload that to Paperpal's write feature, and then the AI will read through that image and then provide you with the information that you need from that image. So for example, if you have written down some measurements in a lab note, you want to convert that into a table, no problem. Attach that image, ask a small prompt to read the content, provide that as a table, and it will provide you with a ready-made table that you can download as an Excel sheet. And the images are not limited to, let's say, only cartoons or just handwritten text. It can also be a poster. So for example, you found a nice infographic or poster, or consider a scenario where you have made a poster for a conference. Now you want to use that poster to maybe write a small write-up for your university newsletter, or maybe construct an abstract from the content that's present inside that poster. You can do that very simply. So for example, as an example, I have provided this image of a chromatin. It's a very interesting, colorful image. Now I wanted to understand what exactly is happening here, because this is a slightly out of my topic. And it tells me, okay, the image illustrates so and so using spaghetti and something like this. So it not only reads the image, it also reads the text. It understands the science behind what is happening. Now, if I want to, let's say, condense this particular image into something formal, I can either insert it, use the make academic feature in rewrite to formalize it, or I can simply ask, okay, can you maybe explain it in a more formal way? Something like this. I can keep on asking follow-up questions until and unless I am satisfied with the response, or until and unless I get what I am looking for, because the flexibility is definitely present inside the write feature. So as I mentioned, you can not only provide images, you can provide your text and all of that. So here you can see DNA is organized into complex structures known as chromatin, which consists of DNA, proteins. So you just provided a slightly cartoonish image, and now you end up, let's say, with some scientific content, which might actually be true, provided you are the expert in this particular topic. That's how I can flexibly use Paperpal while I am writing. I can provide it some content right at the beginning, especially when I'm at the stage of a blank document. I can provide it supplemented with references, my notes, ask it to create some outlines, extract some useful information, extract some tables that I can add into my Paperpal document, add into my outline while I am writing. Let's say if I want to expand that outline into, let's say, some bullet points, extract that into content, I can use the outlines that are generated. For example, if I assume that these are the bullet points that are generated by a Paperpal, I can ask it to condense that into a paragraph. The other thing that I can do, for example, if I have generated, let's say, an outline with Paperpal, now I want to also find some reading material on this. For example, I provided it with one reference file. It read that one particular reference file and gave me an outline. But that one reference file is not sufficient for me, because in an actual research, I have to read quite a lot of literature. And if I don't have any literature of my own, because I have not even started the process of a literature review, there is one more interesting way in which Paperpal can help you at that as well. So for example, I have an outline over here, indirect effects, something like this. I can say something like, okay, selected text, convert this into a question. Something simpler. I'll show you what the fun is. So it reads the text that I provided, and it will generate, let's say, a question based out of this particular content. What are the direct and indirect impacts of climate change on mental health? Fair enough. In Paperpal, we have a feature called as Research Insight. Now, one of the hallmarks of Research Insight is ask a question, wherein you ask your question in natural language, and the system will understand, comprehend this particular question, read through a corpus of more than 250 million academic papers, identify the top papers that addresses the content of your question, and then retrieve those papers for you. So when you ask a research question, for example, no matter what research question that may be, the reason why I showed this is, let's say, if you begin with an outline, you can convert that outline, let's say, into certain question, depending upon what is it that you want to find. What is the question that you have in mind? So for example, if I want to understand some background on climate change, I can simply say, okay, what is known about climate change and its impact on mental health? So for example, it will read that particular question, understand the keywords, understand the major topics present in that, and then do a search to retrieve reference backed papers and a reference backed response. So the references that you see here, these are actual published academic papers, and these are not going to be any blog articles. These are not going to be random websites that come up from the internet search when you say use ChatGPT or so, but these are actual published papers. For example, when I click on something, I find the title of the paper, the list of authors, the journal, the citation count, whether it's a journal article, and maybe an abstract to read more. So this is the Research Insight feature which you can integrate in your workflow, especially let's say you want to get that first draft of introduction ready. You have maybe a collection of 5 research papers or even just one research paper. Get an outline ready. Once you have that outline, maybe using that outline, you ask the AI, okay, how can I improve it? Or what are some good questions that I can ask on this topic? so that I can learn better on this particular point. Because one of the critical things or the critical commentaries that we have today in the age of AI is that AI will dull your thinking. It will make you, let's say, not very smart, or it's going to reduce your IQ. Those are concerns that we have. But at the end of the day, it's important to us for us to remember that AI is just going to be a tool. How you use it makes all the difference. So you create an outline. If you don't know what questions are the right ones to ask, then you ask the AI some assistance. Tell me what are some best questions that I can ask to, let's say, get some papers on this particular topic. The AI will give you that questions. Use that question seamlessly inside research and write, and then you will get, let's say, a reference backed answers. And now you have a decent enough reading list. Now this reading list can become, let's say, your starting point for you to build up a deeper literature review. Now I can also do a lot more things. I can ask a follow-up question if I want to filter out, let's say, by some journal quartile, such that I only want the top Q1 quartile journals to be included. I don't want some random low quality journals or papers to be included. I can filter that. If I only want open access, I can filter by that. If I only want, let's say, the highly cited papers, I can filter by that. All of that I can do such that my flow, which is starting from scratch, creating an outline, improving that outline by iteratively uh, using the AI to improve that particular outline, ask better question, extracting useful questions for you to ask, using those questions inside research to get reference back papers and some solid reading material. And that is how you get from a point of, let's say, a blank document to maybe a decent enough first draft of your introduction section before you go on that leave, using Paperpal in a single window without having to switch any tools, without having to, let's say, worry about, okay, you know what, okay, my paper is here, but now I have to use this tool, convert it into this format. None of that. All of that can happen in a single seamless flow with Paperpal, with web as well as with write, because all the functionalities that you see on web are also available in the Word add-in with Paperpal. So I hope I was able to convey the effectiveness of how you can use Paperpal in different scenarios. Now, the one thing that I want to, let's say, also leave you, at least at this part of the segment, is that how you use it, it's all up to your imagination. We have seen people generate code to write, let's say, programs on MATLAB because Excel is supported, although we have not built or tested it rigorously. People have also used it for, let's say, some small data analysis, something like, okay, maybe do this particular statistical test and then validate that data and use it ahead. Although I would not recommend it for data analysis, but there are people who have been trying that and who has gotten back to us. So your imagination is the limit on how exactly you use Paperpal, especially the write feature, which is very powerful and flexible to get your work started and no longer experience that roadblock. That said, before I take a short pause and, let's say, hand it over to Riddhi to give a message about a promotion code, and while also maybe take a sip of water, there is one Easter egg that I would like to show all of you, because this is something that everyone has been requesting for a really long time. Now in Paperpal, we had something called as a chat PDF feature, wherein you can upload a PDF, you can ask questions, and you will get answers which are grounded on the facts of that PDF. One limitation of that was you could only upload one PDF at a time. So at any given point, if you have a collection of, let's say, 10 PDFs, for example, you could only upload one. You want to ask question only with that one PDF. And one common concern was that, you know what, I want to talk to more PDFs. I want to extract content from more PDFs. And which is exactly why we have been hard at work. And we have started to slowly roll out progressively and sequentially our new multi-PDF chat feature in Paperpal. So now, let's say, possibly by early Jan, the best gift that you can get in Paperpal would be the multi-PDF chat. And functionality wise, well, this is a small peek of the feature and the interface. And this is exactly what you get. So you have all your sources, you have your PDF, and then you can keep on asking questions. It will iteratively think, understand your question, read through the content as it always does, and then progressively, let's say, iterate even further in multiple loops until and unless it gets the answer that you desire. So for example, here are some questions that I had tested out with the multi-PDF chat and which others have also tested out. For example, I provided 5 PDFs for it to understand and read. And then I said, okay, give me a provisional literature review section on this particular topic. Because one of the common questions, one of the common concerns that people had was, okay, because in a research paper, the introduction is something where, let's say, your AI can assist you a little maximally, because that is something where you are reading paper and you are pulling up information, setting the context of your particular paper, as opposed to, let's say, your discussion section where the human intervention is going to be maximum, because you have to decide and drive the narrative of your research paper. So for writing something sections like, okay, give me a literature review that I can get a first draft on, and then I can read and I can polish. So things like that can be easily done with Paperpal's multi-PDF chat feature once it goes live, and it will very soon come to you very soon. And the other thing I can do is, of course, I can create tables like I mentioned, like with Write. But here, unlike with Write, you have a neat experience where you can verify the content of each and every answer that you get. You can take notes directly and then use those notes, incorporate that into your writing very seamlessly. So that is a small Easter egg that I wanted to give you before I hand it over to Riddhi for sharing the promo code with you all. So yeah, over to you, Riddhi, until the next segment. I hope I'm still able to okay, I can see that I'm still in the call. So yeah, I think the promo code has already been shared. So I guess you can see that pop up on your interface right now. You can just click on activate, follow along, and then continue with your journey. So I'm just going to take a sip of water for a while, and then I'll continue with the next segment. All right, moving along, let me reshare my screen and very quickly carry on with the next segment. So 1 second. All right. So now in the first segment, I showed you, okay, if you're a researcher, if you want to get some writing done, if you want to get some, let's say, content generated automatically, like how do you get that done, let's say, with Paperpal, right? Now, the other thing that you can actually do with Paperpal is assume that you are someone who has already done the writing and you have your first draft written, but your PI, your professor tells you, you know what, before you go on that leave, I want you to at least correct this for language, grammar, get the proofing done, maybe give you some points for critique. Now you're pressed for time. Now you want a lot of improvements to be done on your system, on your paper. How do you get that done with Paperpal, let's say, so that you can peacefully have that vacation and take the year off, the year end off, basically? So in Paperpal, we have introduced something called as an import document flow. So there are two ways you can use it. Either you can create a new web document. For example, if I create a new web document, I will have the new web document open, of course, and then I will have an import document functionality. But as I mentioned, you're in the holiday mode, you can simply come to the home page, log in, and import that document. So for example, let's say I go ahead and import, uh, let's say, a dummy file over here. So now the file imports and the content will be pasted into your Paperpal editor. So that's one seamless way to use Paperpal, especially on web right now. And it will maximally try to preserve all of your formatting and all of this content, but there could be some cases where your formatting might get a little messy. So do brace out for that and reach back to us with your feedback on that. Now, once this is done, we have made some tweaks to our interface so that you can do a comprehensive health check of your manuscript at ease and in sequence. And what do I mean by that? So now when you click on language, previously you would be redirected, let's say, to the edit feature. You had to go to the edit feature manually, where you would get individual recommendations and suggestions for the language and grammar correction. But now when I click on edit, I can go to this particular edit feature and I have one document over here. All right. Now, one of the features that we have introduced very recently is the ability to download a document with track changes. So let us say you are working on a document that is around 3,300 words long, All right. Now, you don't want to manually sit and review each and every change, but at the same time, you want to be in control of what exactly are the changes that you are introducing in your paper. Maybe like me, you prefer to look at a track change and then use your keyboard to accept and reject easily. If that is comfortable, we now provide a way for you to download the track changed version of your document. So once your document is uploaded, you will come to edit, where let's say if you click on language, you will automatically be redirected to the edit feature, where you will be able to download that particular document with track changes. Now, depending upon your document size, it might take a while. It might take anywhere from, let's say, 5 to 10 minutes, depending on how big your document is. But once that is done, you will be able to download your document with track changes. And in the interest of time, I already have a particular document over here with me that I have provided with track changes. So for example, here's the initial thing where the issues are found, the extent of issues that you get. There's a table of content in my document. And here are the actual changes, the language and grammar changes. It's not too bad. I think I've done a decent job of writing that first paper. But this is how I can get that language and grammar changes checked and introduced in my document easily with Paperpal. So that's one health check that you can run, especially when you're pressed for time and you want to go on that holiday. Coming over to the next one. Now you have done your language and grammar correction, but you also want to get some critical insights of your paper, like get some actual feedback, get some critique, so that when you submit to a PI, maybe after the vacation, after the holidays, they don't give you a really long list that actually gets you in a lot of trouble. So how do you get one round of critical review already done with Paperpal? And that is where we have the AI review feature. Now, if you follow the document health check flow, you will find that the AI review is just the next button that you have. Alternatively, if you manually want to use the AI review feature inside Paperpal, let's say you are using the Word version. So in that case, you can very simply and easily click on checks and then come to AI review over here. So now this takes you inside the AI review feature, where the system reads all the text that you have on your screen, and then you can choose maybe from some of the presets that are provided over here, or ask a custom question that you might have. And that custom question can be anything. It can be something as generic as, okay, read the paper, tell me is everything okay. Not exactly a great question, not scientifically sound, but still a question that you can ask the AI review feature. Or I can select something like this: review the section, review the manuscript section by section, so that it gives me a very thorough overview of that paper. Excuse me. What happens here is the AI will read through that paper, but unlike any other AI tool, it does not go ahead and rewrite your entire paper on your behalf. It always keeps you in the driver's seat. It always keeps you in control. Now it will read the paper and it generates a pretty long list of feedback, which I can then read. And then I can then decide what is something that is relevant for me, what is something that is okay to not be included or not be actioned upon. And then I'm always in control of what exactly are the feedback that I'm incorporating. So it seems like although I wrote the paper in good language, I might have not done a good job of writing it well, which is why there's quite a lot of feedback given to me. Here, as you can see, there's the introduction. It establishes the strengths. All right, I give the strengths. It tells me the weaknesses, and at the same time, it also gives me exactly where the weakness lies in the paper, so that I don't have to figure out, okay, where exactly did this feedback, or where is it that I have to apply this feedback. As you can see, it also gives me suggestions for improvement. That is good. Now, as I mentioned, because it's an AI powered tool and because you are in control, you can read through it, iterate through it, use your expertise and your judgment to understand what should be fixed and what is something which is okay to not be fixed because it might not exactly be within the scope of your requirements. So that is one way I can get a critical review of my paper done very quickly before I go on that holiday. The next thing I can do in line is check my paper for plagiarism. And that very simply means that, okay, if I have a document, let's say a web document or a Word document, I can click on plagiarism, in which case I will land up here. And then I can simply click check plagiarism for this document. It will take a while to process the particular document, identify it against more than 90 billion web articles, and then generate that plagiarism report, which is why I already have created one for you. So for example, once your report is done, it will automatically redirect and open the plagiarism check report in a separate tab, so that now you can see the overall similarity index of your paper. It will also give you color coded indices as to what exactly are the sections that would have contributed to plagiarism, or in case, let's say, you missed citing a particular reference. So all of that is neatly provided in this particular report. And for example, all of your previous reports are accessible here as well. Now, in case you want to dedicatedly see all the plagiarism checks that you have run, on the left hand side over here, you can just click plagiarism check. And when you click on plagiarism check, you will find all the previous reports that you have run, which you can download, you can open in a new tab, or you can simply delete along with the original file, so that after your job is done, you don't want to keep those files for whatever reason. So I can delete it, have my peace of mind. So those are three flows by which I can get a comprehensive health check done for my document very quickly with Paperpal. And one last Easter egg for today is, again, a more popular feature that people have been asking us, and which is the AI detector. And I would hand it over now to Riddhi to explain more about the AI detector. Over to you, Riddhi.
Hello again. I hope I am audible this
Yes.
time and you can see. Awesome. Okay, great. Thanks, Shardul, again. I'm just going to share my screen and just once again, confirm that everything's audible and fine. Um,
Yes, Riddhi, we can see your screen and you are audible.
Thank you so much. All right. So, yeah, before we move into question answer segment, as Shardul mentioned, I wanted to pause briefly on something that's especially important for us when we talk about AI in academic writing, which is using it responsibly. So, as researchers, it's not just about using AI tools, but about how we use them. And we already see so many questions and comments about use of AI tools and how do we reflect it. So we always emphasize a very simple every framework as a reminder. I'll just give a minute to for all of us to go through the framework. But as we use AI, it's extremely important that we use it thoughtfully and critically and transparently, and we ask the right questions when we are using AI outputs. Is the output fitting my actual purpose? Is it accurate? Yes, AI tools rely on extreme methods to verify the sources and present it to you. However, at the end of the day, it is your work. So it's important that it it is you ask the question whether it is accurate and it's verifiable. Um, does it truly reflect your voice and intent? Again, very important when we are drafting, revising, reviewing, or preparing for any submission. Anything that we use from AI, it's important that we ask this question: does it truly reflect my voice and intent? So yes, a quick reminder to use every as a mental checklist to make sure that AI is working with you and not instead of you. So yeah, with that, I would like to bring your attention to um, an offer, an exclusive holiday offer for all of you who would like to continue using PaperPal Prime beyond today's session. You can unlock the full Prime experience with at least 40% off on select plans. With Prime, you get access to advanced features like AI review, as Shardul beautifully demonstrated just now. Language enhancements, checks, citation support, and much more, all designed to support serious academic writing and publishing. So with that, let's move to Q&A. Just a reminder that we'll share full details in the follow-up email along with the demo recording and resources, so you can explore everything at your own pace as well. So yeah, with that, I will just open up Q&A. Um, so just bear with me. I'm just opening up the document. Um,
So I think there's already quite a lot of questions on AI detection and humanization that folks have
yes,
already asked. So
yes.
there's one important one interesting question. Perhaps Riddhi, you could take this. Uh, the question goes, what about Turnitin detection percentage if we use paraphrase or translate tools from Paperpal? So yeah, that's a question. Over to you.
Yeah. So great questions, and I think I wanted to start with this as we have several questions surrounding this. But uh, to answer this specific question, which is about Turnitin detection percentage, and how to keep that in mind when we are using paraphrase or other tools like Paperpal. It's first important to understand what this detection is and what this score indicates. So for many of us who are intending submissions and now have to deal with specific AI scores, limits and thresholds that are being stipulated by universities, institutions, it's important to understand that these detectors detect AI like patterns in your writing. So, say if you are using paraphrase on Paperpal, it is important to know what the source of that text is. So, for example, if you had your own notes that you have maybe roughly written and you have simply used paraphrase to expand some of those ideas, it is likely that your own ideas and the nuance is reflected in the material that comes through even after paraphrasing, and hence your score may not be as high. However, if your input had maybe smaller excerpts of your own writing and higher AI input, even though the idea may be yours, because the final output contains AI like writing, which is which doesn't contain a lot of human written initial excerpts. It's likely that this can lead to a high score on an AI detector. Um, it is crucial that we understand this difference, and instead of focusing on reducing a high score, focus on understanding how AI was used and transparently reflecting it. Many institutions, higher institutions, journals, publishers are now moving away from deciding on specific thresholds for understanding where AI was used, and instead prefer transparent disclosures of AI usage. So I hope that answers that question to some extent. With that, Shardul, we also have several questions in terms of how do we go about humanizing content that's generated via specific tools like Paperpal. Do you want to maybe add to this?
Yeah, I think Riddhi has already covered the major points. And like I mentioned somewhere during the course of the demo, that most of us are worried about either detection or about humanization. But the one thing that we need to focus upon is using AI as a tool rather than offloading everything about your writing to an AI. And what do I mean by that? The reason why I specifically started, let's say, using an outline, because instead of asking the AI or giving it 5 papers and then telling, give me an entire literature review or write an entire paper, because theoretically there are AI tools that can actually do that. But is that the right way? No, not exactly. Why is that? Because let me take an example of, let's say, a deep review feature that's become very popular, right? And people these days, they tend to literally go to ChatGPT, apply a deep review feature or setting, and then says, give me an entire literature review on this particular topic. You might get, let's say, an entire 10, 20 page deep review article. But if you do not take the effort to verify whether a particular reference is actually needed, is in support of your particular paper, then that is going to be of waste. Because as I mentioned, if your professor or if a reviewer asks you a very simple question, why did you include this review in your paper? And the answer to that will only come when you have read the paper and when you have a very clear idea of why you want to include a particular paper in your paper, in your research paper or your manuscript. So rather than worrying about trying to humanize and then beat an AI detector, which by itself is keeping on evolving day by day, so it's a moving target anyway. I would recommend that you follow the best practices, follow the every framework that Riddhi had mentioned during her section, and follow it to the T, such that you are using AI maximally to speed up your process, but at the same time you are always in control and not offloading everything to the AI. So that's the best way rather than worrying about humanizing. Because another thing is your journals and policies, they will also keep on evolving, and AI is here to stay. It's not going anywhere. So that's it. So that said, I think in the interest of time, maybe we'll just take two more questions and then wind it up. So there
Yeah.
is one question on, do the word add-in and the web page work similarly, or does the web page have certain advantages over the word add-in? So feature-wise, both your word add-in and the web page, the browser experience of Paperpal, they work exactly the same. So there is no feature that is, let's say, missing in Word or present in web, nothing like that. But there are some slight benefits that you can use, let's say, with Word or with your web page. So if you're someone who's already doing a lot of writing in MS Word, and let's say that's your go-to place where everything has been done, my recommendation would be that you download the Word add-in such that you can seamlessly use all the Paperpal features while continuing to do all your writing in Word, because that might be easier with collaboration. You might have, let's say, a manuscript that is formatted according to a template and whatnot. Similarly, if you're just beginning your writing, then maybe try the web experience. Why? Because there are some features like, for example, selecting the text and then querying the AI inline rather than having to depend on the right hand side panel, or some features like, let's say, being able to format or download the file as a track changed file, or maybe doing a plagiarism while in the document rather than having to upload some of those little things. And there are a lot of other features that the web version also offers. For example, adding comments, collaboration, let's say something called as an AI footprint to keep track of how much AI content has been added at the overall view. So these are things that helps you keep in track with the web version of Paperpal. So yeah, it's about preference. And maybe one last question for the day, Riddhi. It's about Zotero and Mendeley. So the
Yeah.
question is, how does the Paperpal work with reference tools like Mendeley and Zotero? Does it mess with the internal links and format?
Yeah, I
So
think that's an excellent question. So I think people who are using word add-in might like this, that we do offer a medium where if you already have a document with Zotero citations, you can, when you use Paperpal add-in, you will be able to convert those Zotero citations to Paperpal citations and have the linkages and reference list intact in place. So while we do not have currently have direct integration mediums in place, we if you're using word add-in, you will be able to use Paperpal seamlessly when even if you have Zotero citations on your document. We also have, in case your preferred reference manager is say Zotero and Mendeley, but at the same time you are on Paperpal and you have your library that's built up, and you want to use those in Mendeley and Zotero, you can simply export the whole library. We have an export all feature within reference and cite feature of Paperpal, so you could do that as well. It's important to note that we do identify this need of integrating libraries. So we do have something coming up wherein you will be able to import your Zotero and Mendeley libraries within Paperpal, so that you can have all your references in one place and not worry about switching tools. So yeah.
Thank you, Riddhi. I think that is it for today. And before we part with, so like I mentioned, two Easter eggs coming your way. One, which is on the way, which is your multi PDF chat. Do look out for that and give your reviews. The second thing that is already out live is that PaperPal now has an AI detector. So you don't have to depend on anything else. You can use the AI detector in PaperPal seamlessly within a single flow, such that no more switching of tools, no more switching of tabs or context, no more worrying about your data security. All of that is taken care of. So, with that, we will conclude this session. You all have been a wonderful audience and very interactive, lot of questions. I hope you were able to take away a lot of things with value, and do try it. Give us your feedback, come back to us, write to us. And I wish you all a very happy holidays. Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to all.
Yeah. Thanks again, everyone. As Shardul mentioned, just a quick reminder that your feedback truly matters. So definitely take a minute to fill out the feedback form after the session. And yeah, thanks, everyone. Have a wonderful day ahead or evening.
Bye all and take care.